Hey, this is Rich O'Neill with Elite Functional Performance in Charlotte, North Carolina. And for our friends at Charlotte Country Day School, this is exercise video number 2 in your series of exercise and wellness videos. Today we're going to be talking to you about stretching. We're going to be taking you through some movements today that are going to focus on stretching key areas of the body, as well as other areas that are going to require some activation, as well as other areas where we're going to be working on mobility and movement. So we're going to begin with the hips. The hips are a part of the body that tend to get very snug and very limited in movement from being fixed in a seated position, where we tend to just get in a chair and spend too much time being in that same position with the knees bent. That'll get the hips very snug and very locked up. But we can also notice the front of the hips getting snug in a lot of scenarios where people exercise regularly and there's a lot of repetitive, high volume movement. So the hips are one of those areas that takes a beating with the amount of stress that we can put on it from exercise as well as from being seated. So we're gonna be down on the floor here. We just have a regular exercise mat out here. And we're gonna use your blue cord that's in your exercise kit. And then we've got our cell phone here that we're gonna use for a timer. So the first exercise that we're gonna do, we'll begin in a position where we're on all fours. We're gonna begin setting our timer on our phone. Once I'm in a position where my spine is neutral and I've taken out any excessive arch in the lower back, I'm gonna take my right leg and just throw it over the left side of my body. I'll be looking over my left shoulder to locate my right foot. Once I feel like I've gotten into the right position and I can feel a stretch in the hip on the down knee, I'll start my timer and begin breathing. We're gonna hold this position for 1 to 2 minutes. And the objective here is to begin to melt into the hip on the side that is down. So I'm looking over that shoulder and spotting my right foot, and then just melting further and further into that stretch. Come up nice and easy after 1 minute, and then we'll switch sides. So I'll throw my left leg over the right side of my body, look over the right shoulder, spot the left foot, and then begin just melting into the right hip. Now it's very common to find that maybe one of these sides is a little bit more tight or feels a little bit more snug. That would be where it's appropriate then to hold the stretch on the tight side maybe for 2 minutes and hold the opposite side where it wasn't as tight for 1 minute. Looking over that shoulder, spotting that foot, and just melting in nice and deep. Come out with nice control. So for the next one, we'll be down on the floor. We've got your blue elastic band, and I'm gonna loop that around the toe of my right foot. Now I'm gonna hold both handles in my left hand and bring my right leg up as I lay back. My right hand will go out to my side with the palm up, and I'll be focused here on keeping both shoulders down on the ground. Now, once I've gotten to a position where I can get my leg fully extended without the knee being bent, I'm going to gently take my right leg over to the left side of my body as far as I can before my right shoulder comes off the ground. When we're on our back and the hand is out to the side, the leg will only come over as far as the opposite shoulder can stay down. So it's very easy to get that leg far over the body, nearer to the floor, but likely that will have that shoulder coming up. So we try to keep the shoulders pinned down and let the leg come as far as it can go with the correct shoulder position. When I get to that position, I'm gonna focus on just squeezing my leg to full extension on the right, and then I'll be able to feel everything stretching from the lower back on the right side, down the outside to the knee, and you may even get a little bit down into the lower leg below the knee. This area down the side of the leg is called the IT band, the iliotibial band. And that tends to be an area that also gets very snug on folks that spend a lot of time seated. But it's also a piece of tissue that tends to get very snug on folks that cycle frequently. Our runners, recreational runners, get very snug IT bands. And so we need this exercise, whether we're exercising frequently and getting tight that way, or sitting in the chair and getting tight that way. Come up nice and easy. And then we'll switch that band to the left foot. I'll move the handles to my right arm, lay back, get the shoulders into the correct position, and then take the leg across the body with control. Extend that leg. And we'll hold this for 1 to 2 minutes each leg, following the same prescription that if this side feels more snug and more tight, stay on this side for 2 minutes and do 1 minute on the other side. And we'll come out of that nice and easy and rest. So the next exercise is going to be a supine internal rotation stretch for the hips. Supine referring to our on the back, belly up position. I'll begin with my feet flat on the floor and my knees bent. My hands will come out to the side with palms up. It's important here to make sure that I can feel my lower back make contact with the floor. So I've tucked my pelvis under and activated my core. Once I've got that locked in, I'll gently take my knees to one side, bringing my knees as close as they can get to the floor without feeling the arch in my lower spine. When I feel like I've hit end range, we'll hold here and be able to feel from the side of the hip down through the top of the thigh, a nice stretch coming down the leg. This is a very appropriate position for our beginners to be in. If we feel like we can keep the curve in the spine minimized, we can take the foot from underneath and put it on that top knee. Then the weight of this right leg will pull the left knee nearer to the floor and magnify some of the stretch coming down through the side of that hip. We want to also on this be focused on keeping the shoulder blades driven into the ground for stability. And we'll just work a slow, controlled breathing pattern for 1 to 2 minutes each side. Return to starting position, and then take it to the other side. Remember to reset the core and feel the spine lose some of that arch. And if we can feel that stretch here, we're good. If we want to take the left leg out, put it on top of the right knee, we can pull that right knee nearer to the floor without getting any extra arch in the lower back. So the next muscle group that we're going to focus on are the hamstrings. The hamstrings are the powerhouse muscle group on the back side of the thigh. These are the muscles that oppose the quads. So hamstrings get tight a lot of times because the quads are very snug, always a byproduct of being in a seated position. Another thing that makes the hamstrings very tight and has them working overtime is the lack of activation in the glute muscles. So the glutes are an area that gets impacted from too much sitting as well, and the hamstrings then pick up a lot of that slack. So we're gonna use your elastic band today and get down on the floor on the back and show you a couple movements to move through hamstring tension. So we'll begin by taking your blue band, just putting it around the foot. I'll hold both handles with both hands. Come back flat on my spine and get my shoulders locked into the floor. From here, I'll raise my foot up as high as I can without feeling like I need to bend my knee. I want to try to keep my leg locked out. And then from here, I'm just going to move my foot inside and then back to the outside. with control, keeping consistent tension on the band and feeling the ankle loosen up. I can hold to the interior for an extra 1 or 2 count if I feel I need more stretch there, or to the outside. We'll move for 1 to 2 minutes with control, and then we'll come up and switch feet. Same thing here, I wanna raise the leg up as high as I can without bending the knee. Shoulders are secured on the floor, and I'm just moving that foot inside. And same thing on this foot. If it feels like there's a position where you get more stretch, we can hold that for an extra 1 count. Moving with slow control, side to side. And be careful that we don't flex the toe too much so the elastic rolls off and gets you where you don't want it. And then for the next one, we're gonna have that same position. We'll lower the body to the floor, shoulders down secure. And from here, we're just going to raise the leg up and then back down with control. The objective here is to raise the leg as high as I can without feeling like I need to bend the knee. We're gonna keep the leg completely straight the entire time and just raise up on an inhale. Slow control down on an exhale. As we're moving through this sequence, the leg that stays on the floor must remain locked out, trying to avoid a knee bend as that knee comes up. 1 to 2 minutes each leg. And we'll come up nice and easy. Switch to the opposite side. Get the shoulders and spine engaged to the floor. Raise that leg up on control and down with control. Inhale the leg up. Exhale back down.
So next we'll be talking about shoulders. Shoulders are the joint that has the most effect on our posture. So when we spend too much time over a computer, holding children, cooking and prepping food, even just reading books, we tend to allow the ball to roll to the front of the socket on the shoulder, and that's what tends to implicate a lot of our positioning and really drive the joint crazy. So when we talk about the shoulders, this isn't necessarily an area that we focus on stretching exclusively. What we're trying to do is create better congruency in the ball and socket positioning. A better way to say that is we want to take the ball from the front of the socket and place it more comfortably into the rear of the socket. If the ball in the shoulder joint lives in the back of the shoulder, then we're said to have better posture.
Okay, so for the next one, we're gonna get you up on your feet. We've got our elastic band. I'm gonna loop my hands through the handles. Then I'll grab my band with an overhand grip, put a little bit of tension on that band, keep my arms straight, and then just take my arms all the way back over my head and back down to the front of my body. I'm taking my arms back on an inhale, and then exhale, coming back over. We're using this movement to begin moving the ball from the front of the socket in the shoulder to the back of the socket, and really working some mobility deep into the shoulder capsule. We'll be moving through these for 1 to 2 minutes of continuous movement. So for our next movement, we're going to perform what we call a pull apart. I'll get my hands through the same handles, and now this time I'm gonna work with an underhand grip on the cord. The underhand grip is more representative of a better shoulder position. We often find that the shoulders get into bad posture from an overhand grip, things like computers, things that we might be doing in front of us on a countertop, even holding children. So the underhand grip allows us to get the shoulders back into a better position as we begin our pull aparts. With the pull aparts, I'm inhaling as my arms move behind me and exhaling back to center. Another important component on this one is to make sure that I'm not getting up too high into my neck. I want to try and keep my shoulder blades down my spine and squeeze my shoulder blades together at the back of each movement, working with a slow, controlled tempo for 1 to 2 minutes.
So for the next movement, we're going to hold the band in the same position. We'll bring the arms overhead to 90 degrees. And now we're going to keep the same soft bend in the knees that you had for the first movement. And then here we're just going to work over to the side. We'll move side to side with control. Inhaling as I tilt. And exhaling back to center. What's important to think about on this one is actually tilting the entire upper body instead of just moving the arms. We don't want to get the arms too much movement without the body following. Now this exercise loosens the lower back by focusing on the rib cage and the armpit, as well as the side of the spine. So we like to be able to sink deep into this and feel that mobility moving up the side of the spine on both sides. These lower body, lower spine mobility movements are particularly beneficial for folks who spend a lot of time in a seated position and get very compressed in the discs in the lower back. So if you've got an overwhelming amount of tension in that lower spine area from being on your feet too long or from being seated too long, these movements are going to be very effective.
So the next movement for our lower spine mobility will be on the ground. Lower back glues to the floor, hands out to the side, palms are up. From here, I'm gently going to take my knees over to the side as far as I can go until I feel a stretch in the lower back. And then I'll pull my knees to the side and go to the opposite direction, keeping my rib cage down to feel less arch in the lower back. We call this movement a floor rainbow because we're laying on the floor and your legs will go back and forth in the shape of a rainbow to loosen up the lower spine. That's our beginner version. For our intermediate and advanced exercisers that are looking for more inclusion of the core muscles, we'll bring the legs up to 90 degrees. Hold the hands in the same position, and then bring the legs down to the side, control the way back, drop to the other side. We'll still be feeling the stretch in the lower back area, and only lowering the knees down as far as I can before the opposite shoulder wants to come off the floor. So here you'll feel the core muscles have to slam on the brakes to stop the momentum and then engage on the opposite side to start bringing you back the opposite direction. 1 to 2 minutes here, slow control. Breathing with control on every repetition.
So thanks for tuning in for our exercise session, and be on the lookout for more videos coming in this series.